The film opens with a sweeping view of the buzzing cyber city, polluted with bright lights and virtual billboards. Over the city, an announcement about the increasing number of missing person cases is heard. The announcer warns all citizens to remain vigilant as the cases are yet to be solved by a special team. As this announcement plays, we see a man walking through the city carrying a picture of a little girl. He comes across a large virtual billboard for Infinis, a genetic treatment designed to crack the genetic code and cure what were previously incurable congenital diseases. The man pauses for a beat before walking away. In the distance, someone IDs him, revealing his name to be Cheng King, a 33-year-old former scout for Special Troop Combat, where he specialized in long-range sniper shots.
Is our future.
When he gets to his house in the dingy part of the city, he receives a call from a doctor, letting him know that his daughter's condition wasn't getting any better. The girl needs surgical treatment ASAP. And by ASAP, he meant 24 hours, or else it would be too late. And just like healthcare in the real world, the surgery is crazy expensive, and our guy isn't exactly loaded on cash. As he walks through the city's underbelly, he comes across an outpost for CreditBit, an interest-free loan service that promises a fast, safe, and easy transaction. He goes inside and finds an old man working on a device. King inquires about the service, and the man asks him for his ID and the amount he needs. He sees the hand scanner and places his hand over for his entire information, as in entire information, is displayed on the screen. With the amount of money he needs for his daughter's surgery, the old man asks him for collateral, something that King simply doesn't have. With that, the old man calls over a woman named Kay to give him his other option, to put his body up for collateral. According to the agreement, the creditor has the right to use the guarantor's body for medical research and other activities. After he gets confirmation that he would get the money within 12 hours, he signs up using his fingerprint. As he leaves the place, the old man signals a fly-like robot to follow him, which immediately latches onto his neck. Outside CreditBit, King spots men in black hoods eyeing him, which prompts him to run away after inputting something in his watch. As he tries rushing through the alleyways, the men follow him, and they all eventually corner him in a street where they try to knock him out. With King being a former scout, he easily fends them off and runs away to the top of a building where he continues to beat up the rest of them. Reinforcements arrive eventually, which pushes him to slide off the roof of a neighboring building and try to escape them. When he reaches a clearing, he eventually outpowers a whole lot of them. As he leaves, however, he suddenly feels weak and dizzy and starts grabbing on the part of his neck where the robotic fly bit him. As he falls to the ground, the leader of the men in black hoods approaches him and knocks him out with a punch. The next thing he knows, he's in the middle of a snowy forest with several other people. After waking up from flashbacks of his kid Duo and the treatment they probably did on him while he's passed out, he goes around calling his daughter's name. Throughout the forest, we see a bunch of other people still reeling from the effects of something in their system. Eventually, they all regroup towards a clearing surrounded by terrifying statues. In the middle of all of it is a rack filled with various weapons waiting for the taking. When King uncovers it, each one suddenly grabs their own weapon and nervously aims it at each other before a timer on their wrists starts. As they try figuring out what it's for, one of the people in the group gets stabbed with a knife from behind. Just a few feet behind them, the group sees several hooded men ready to attack them. It doesn't take long for them to put two and two together before King tells them to run. As they run through the forest, one of the people in the group pulls down one of them as sacrifice to save himself. Meanwhile, the others try their best to protect each other and survive. Then all of a sudden, as the group continues to fend off the hooded men, all of them begin to experience a weird headache that sends them reeling for a few seconds before regaining twice the powers and strength they all had. When the initial vertigo subsides, they all manage to fend off much of the hooded figures before the timer runs out. Once they've regrouped, they all talk amongst themselves, wondering what the hell just happened. The group deduces that they're probably way above sea level, but in a subtropical zone because of the plants. But that's as far as they get before they decide to keep walking in search of a way out. On their little stroll, however, one of the girls notices a presence behind them just before a timer pops up again. Just as it begins its countdown, a terrifying creature with a butthole for a face and a huge mouth grabs one of them before pursuing the rest. As the rest of the folks begin running away from the huge beast, King and one of the other girls in the group soon realize that the creature in question reacts to loud sounds when it decides not to attack them despite being a mere few feet away from them. The two try their best to save the other people in the group, but ultimately, one of the guys, the one who pushed another dude to the ground to save himself, started breathing way too heavily for his own good. that the monster heard him and turned him into lunch. As the monster chomps away, the rest of the group finally make it out of the forest and into a complex, where they almost get caught again when one of the guys gets their pants stuck on one of the bars covering the entrance. With the entrance to the complex blocked, the group manages to fend off the monster and take a quick break inside. The group, now led by King, try their very dear best to remember what brought them there in the first place. That's when one of the guys starts remembering the credit bit store and the exact moment that he got stung by something after signing a contract. It doesn't take long for all of them to realize that they were all brought there by the same people. One of the girls, the one carrying the bow and shooting everything, suddenly remembers a tattoo she saw on the neck of one of the men in black hoods. She draws it out on the wall for everyone to see before it fades into the door of Infinis, the genetic treatment center that King saw earlier in the movie. It is then revealed that all of them aren't actually in a forest or a complex. Their brains are plugged into a sort of system inside Infinis' office, and each of their moves are being closely monitored. Some of them couldn't survive the sort of game set up for them and thus enter a sudden cardiac arrest, while others, King especially, has shown remarkable enhanced abilities in endurance, strength, and brain function. We see the head of Infinis satisfied with these results and remarks that King and the girl with the bow, dubbed Candidate 6, are their potential candidates for the experiment they were conducting. Back in the shared dreamscape of the group, we see them walking around a desolate area with a bunch of ruined buildings before catching their breath in a relatively quiet area. There, King takes out the picture of his daughter, which Candidate 6 sees. She thanks him for saving her and introduces herself as Anna. One of the candidates in the group rushes to interrupt the two as King was about to shake her hand. The overly excited candidate introduces himself as Wang Shan, or Chubim, a programmer who designs games. Another one introduces himself as Tank, a former bodyguard turned bouncer. He is followed by Zhao Zai, a model who's been subtly trying to use her looks to get Tank to protect her, which works a little too well when Zhao Zai disagrees with a harmless comment made by Chubby and Tank tells him to shut up. As the group wraps up their little introduction session, they are interrupted by the sound of a rock falling and they realize that they better keep walking. Meanwhile, in Infinis headquarters, the team is getting ready for the next task. While they're in a building, their timer goes off again, and suddenly everything in the building starts shaking because of a strong earthquake. As the floor around them begins to break, they suddenly find themselves in the middle of a platform that shifts violently left and right in an effort to knock them off. Think of it like a giant, violent seesaw with certain death. As the group try their best to hang on to something, Tank and Zhao Zai find themselves stuck at the very end of the platform with barely anything to hold on to. King tries to reach the girl, but he sees her trying to get help from Tank before eventually stepping on his head and kicking him off the platform to save herself. King sees all of this go down, and Zhao Zai tries to defend herself by saying it's not her fault, just before the platform shifts again and drops her too. As Chubby, Anna, and King try to hang onto the platform, King makes Chubby compute the exact angle needed for him to jump across the platform to save them. He runs the math, but ultimately realizes that everything was too risky. But what's an action movie without a little risk, right? So King makes the jump anyway and leaps off the platform exactly when it hits the 35-degree angle and miraculously gets to the other side. There, he sees a wire that could reach the other side and throws it across to make them swing like Tarzan towards him. Anna quickly obliges and lands flawlessly with King's help, but Chubby wasn't having it. Stuck in the middle, he tells the two that he's scared to make the jump. King tries to encourage him by saying either he jumps or he dies there, which eventually gets him to his feet. King prepares for his jump and counts to 3. But of course, things don't go as planned, and the thing holding the wire breaks off, and Chubby misses the landing and falls off. King manages to grab his hand, and Anna grabs King's legs. With the angle of the floor, Anna's feet are just hanging on for dear life. With Chubby hanging on the edge of certain death, he starts having a seizure right then and there. His IRL body is foaming up in the mouth and overdosing on the serum that Infinis is pumping into his system. Even after trying to convince him to stay and pull himself up, Chubby eventually thanks King for helping him out and respecting him before letting his hand go. King tries to stop him, but there was nothing he could do. As he watches Chubby's body fall into the abyss, he suddenly remembers the other time he couldn't save someone back when he was a military man. When his captain was leading his team through a mission, a sniper shot his chest. As King held him, his captain asks him for one final favor. It is then revealed that the little girl he was taking care of was not actually his daughter, but the daughter of his now deceased captain. As he has this flashback, he remains paralyzed in the dreamscape, repeating the word sorry as Anna pulls him back to wake him up. As she does so, his picture of Duo, the little girl, falls off his jacket and Anna hastily retrieves it as they flee the scene. Meanwhile, in the world outside, the police begin their briefing on the rising number of missing persons cases in the city. Though previously having no leads to the cause of the incidents, they finally have information that may lead them towards the right direction. They have recently received an old-fashioned distress signal in front of a credit bit store, which is revealed to be from King, who sent the signal through his watch before he got royally beat up by the hooded figures. Because of the signal he sent, the police are able to deduce the fact that Creditbit and Infinus could be linked to the missing persons cases, since the signal died down in a place near Infinus. Their investigation also reveals that under Gaia, Infinus has been looking into new photon technology, and that they're using the missing people in their research. Meanwhile, in the Infinus HQ, Gaia asks for an update regarding the two. Apparently, no one has ever reached that far into the company's experiments, so Gaia is eager to know the limits of their strength. As the team prepares to launch the final attack on the last two candidates, two people, a white man and a woman, suddenly appear in the office, revealed by Gaia to be part of the stage. As the two depart to begin their mission, King and Anna catch a break in some sort of clearing in the open. There, Anna hands him back the picture she found on the floor and asks about the breathing tubes on Duo's face. King lets her know that she has a congenital disease that makes it extra difficult for her to breathe without an oxygen tank. As King remembers this, he lets Anna know how much of a sweet little girl she really is and how badly he wants to cure her. Anna is visibly upset for a moment after their talk, but eventually snaps out of it as she tells him that God will bless her. As they near an abandoned building, the timer on their wrists suddenly activates, signaling the start of the final test for them. Then, right on cue, just several feet behind them is the same black hooded crew armed with katanas this time. The pair tries to lose them by hiding behind the pillars of an abandoned building. As the hooded men try to find and attack them, the two sneak up on them, but they're eventually surrounded by the rest when the two white folks from earlier appear and announce that it was time for the final round for them. Anna and King obviously question this, and they try asking what sort of sick game they were playing with them. The man answers by informing them that it wasn't just some sick game, but the future of mankind. As any sane person would say, with that, the girl taunts them by saying that if they really want to know the truth about why they were there, they would have to kill them. This prompts King to slit the throat of one of the hooded men. As the body drops to the ground, much to his surprise, it disappears into thin air. With King absolutely baffled by what the hell just happened, the white guy puts on his headphones, plays a cassette, and starts dancing to some tunes while the rest of his pals try to kill the two candidates. Seriously? A cassette? They have big transparent iPads and microbugs that inject deadly substances, but this man has a cassette player. Talk about being hipster. Anyway, as the fight ensues, King tries to subdue the hooded figures, while Anna herself goes after the other girl using a katana she picked up from one of the hooded men. As Anna and the girl fight, the girl begins displaying exceptional abilities herself, jumping across the pillars and having incredible dexterity to the point of being able to evade Anna's attacks. Eventually, King is able to kill each and every one of the hooded figures, while Anna successfully lands an attack on the girl, pissing her the hell off. The girl manages to cut Anna at the side and kick her far away, which prompts another reaction from their body that makes them stop for a moment. In real life, their bodies are convulsing and rejecting the serum being interjected into their system as they begin to remember details from their past. It is then revealed that Anna was actually abandoned as a child, which sort of explains why she was visibly upset about the thought of King's adoptive daughter. Meanwhile, the two killers hired to push the two to their limits prepare to launch their final attack on the two, but are quickly interrupted when the countdown on the candidates' wrists runs out. In the real world, one of the researchers working on their brains takes notes that the two candidates have survived through the time test. Gaia is ecstatic, exclaiming that she's finally found the perfect gene and orders that the two killers be pulled out. That's when the two killers disappear midair as they launch their final attack. Moments later, Gaia herself appears before the two candidates, wearing a sleek black dress like she's going to some fancy event. King recognizes her as the woman from the billboard in the beginning of the movie, but she brushes this off and merely congratulates them and thanks them for their participation in improving the photonic gene technology they were working on. Anna asks the woman, what the hell did she do to them? Gaia explains that all of the enhanced abilities they were experiencing and the increased cognitive functions were all side effects of the treatment. She reveals that the project still has some flaws where the body rejects it when injected on a human, but all she needed to do was find the perfect genetic sequence so that she could save lives by curing what were previously incurable illnesses. And as determined by the series of tests, the two of them have it. King is enraged by being treated like lab rats, but Gaia simply tells them that great successes simply require greater sacrifices. Anna tries attacking her, but since she's a hologram, she just phases past her and almost falls off the cliff behind her before being taken by another headache. Gaia realizes that she doesn't actually have the perfect gene and orders King to kill her so that he could return to his daughter and save her. Gaia tries manipulating him and tells him that he simply has 1 minute to decide: kill Anna or never see his daughter again. In the real world, the team is busy pumping more serum into Anna's body, while in virtual world, Anna begins reeling from the pain. King starts panicking as Gaia leaves him to decide what to do. As Anna tells him to kill her so that he could save his daughter, King soon realizes that what Chubby said earlier about being in a video game was likely true. Taking Anna's hand, the two run for the cliff and jump, much to Gaia's surprise. The two eventually wake up in the real world, still strapped to whatever Infinus has them on. King gets off and helps Anna down just as armed personnel come to the room to corner them. Meanwhile, outside of the building, armed police have started to gather to rescue the hostages inside. Gaia has no clue this is all happening because inside she's too busy taunting King and Anna and telling him that he made the wrong decision. Gaia tells him that everyone was a slave to their genes and that it was simply a matter of survival of the fittest. Gaia later reveals that under her long flowy pants, she herself has a genetic defect that she inherited. The humiliation and shame that came from being bullied for it pushed her to create a world with no genetic defects, which she uses to tell him that even his daughter could be saved. King asks if she can really cure his daughter, to which Gaia menacingly says yes. She reaches her hands out to him and he approaches, prompting one of the killers from earlier to aim a gun at him, which King uses to shoot the ground and distract everyone. Just as shooting commences, the police barge into the premises and kill off Gaia's goons and rescue the two candidates. With Gaia's company found guilty, 6 months later, Anna visits Cybersecurity Welfare Home and calls out to Duo, who no longer has any sickness. She hands the little girl a kite, and Duo, although happy, misses her dad. Anna reassures her that he's going to come back soon, and she shouldn't be sad. As the two hug, Anna stares into the distance and sees an old and decrepit King sitting on a wheelchair, watching them. It is then revealed that whatever technology Infinus was working on, he tried it to cure his daughter's diseases, despite it draining all the life out of him in return.